Hi, I'm Jeff DeTellis, and you just tuned in to the introductory podcast of BITCHtv. Before we even go any further, I would like to give an explanation of exactly what BITCH stands for and what we are going to be exploring on BITCHtv. BITCH is an acronym for By Integrated Training Create Hypertrophy. So today, on this introductory podcast, I would like to give a further explanation of what bitch training is, the concepts behind it, but more importantly, I want to show value in these concepts that we are going to explore not only today, we're just going to touch on them, but in future podcasts, we are going to really get into more detail and in more depth on these subjects because this will be a subscription-based podcast. It's only going to cost 99 cents a month, and we'll be producing one podcast weekly. So you'll be getting anywhere from 4 to 5 podcasts a month, which comes out to 25 or under 25 cents per podcast. So to give you a little taste of the amount and the importance of the information that is going to be included in these podcasts, this first introductory one is going to be free. And if you cannot find the value in this information, that's perfectly fine. But I think it's going to go without saying that this is going to be well worth your monthly 99 cents, which is less than a cup of coffee you probably drink on an average morning. It's probably half that price. So the value will be explored. So the first thing we should probably talk about is what is hypertrophy? Hypertrophy is the increase in the volume of your muscle tissue due to the enlargement of its component cells. Now, this is different and oftentimes confused with hyperplasia, which is when the cells, in this case, your muscle cells, remain the same size, but you get an increase in the actual number of muscle cells that you have. That's hyperplasia. This is not what we are talking about. Hyperplasia cannot be achieved by the natural athlete, the natural fitness enthusiast. It is possible with the use of performance enhancers and hormones and pharmaceutical drugs. But everything on the Bitch podcast is going to be geared toward and spoken to the natural athlete, the average gym goer, people that are not partaking in using performance enhancing drugs. And again, that concept is very important to understand. I know that myself in the past have found frustration in not being able to get, the results that I thought were attainable, never realizing that the people that I was looking to for advice, guidance, or even trying to emulate in my physique and strength and training were not natural athletes or trainers at all. And if you don't understand that, there can be a disconnect between either the person that's giving you the advice or your expectations as a trainee. So that also needs to be very clear as we move forward. So hypertrophy is we're not actually increasing the number of cells in your muscle tissue, but we are taking the size of your pre-existing cells and increasing the size. So we're actually making your muscles bigger. We are growing muscle fibers. The goal is to increase the muscle cells, and we are going to do this in two primary ways. We are going to train first to increase the density of the muscle by increasing the number of muscle fibers within the muscle cell. Now I'm going to give you a visual image here. Picture if you had a garden hose with a bunch of threads running through it, being your muscle fibers. We are actually going to increase the volume of those muscle fibers in that hose to make that hose expand. So if we were to slice that to the side and look in there, you would actually picture us stuffing more and more of these fibers into the hose until that hose actually increases in diameter. That is going to be one way that bitch training is used to increase the size of your muscles, and that's called myofibrillar hypertrophy. This concept is also used in making you stronger. So you can get power lifters or people that use a lot of heavy weight can get much stronger and move much larger amounts of weight without actually blowing up the size of their muscles. So that's going to be one concept, and that is going to require a specific type of training. The benefit to that type of hypertrophy is when somebody diets down and loses body fat to expose the muscle that they have, the muscle has a more finished, refined look to it. The muscle looks harder, it looks more dense, and you can tell when somebody has been a seasoned weightlifter who has partaken in heavy weightlifting using compound movements like a barbell bench press, a deadlift, squatting, barbell rowing, big compound movements. And when you see maybe somebody that hasn't used that style of training and they diet down, they just don't have the same look, the same finish to their muscles. Besides the actual size themselves, they don't look thick, hard, and dense. The second type of hypertrophy is sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, which is the size orientated muscle growth. This is achieved when your muscle cells actually fill with a fluid called sarcoplasm. This makes the cells actually swell like a balloon, makes your muscles actually visually look bigger. And you might have experienced something like this when you get done with a workout and you get a good pump on your muscles. You do a bunch of bicep curls, your bicep swells up, fills up for maybe an hour or so after your workout. It eventually deflates. But through very specific training, you can train your muscle to retain this sarcoplasmic fluid and carry a bunch of nutrients into that muscle to help with the actual growth of the muscle cell and keep that full looking muscle. So we want a combination of increasing the actual density of muscle fibers and increasing the overall fullness and look of that muscle, so you get those nice round finished muscle bellies, and then the actual shape starts to take place to the muscle itself. And that's when you can actually start to see, wow, I can see the work that has been done in the gym, and it's not just a matter of being stronger, so to say. So different workloads will induce these different forms of hypertrophy. And these are major concepts in the whole bitch training system. So this becomes the very first, what we'll call factor number one, when distinguishing bitch training from your regular run-of-the-mill training program. Factor one states that you need exercises done in a range of repetitions using the appropriate amount of weight to stimulate multiple forms of hypertrophy. You can be missing out on huge gains just by not covering a broad enough repetition range with the correct weight stimuli. So if you are constantly working out in, say, the 3 to 5 rep range with heavy weight, that might be very good for achieving one form of hypertrophy, or you might be working in the 10 to 15 rep range, and that might be very good for sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. But if you are not doing those in conjunction with each other and even exploring the upper registers of 40 and 50 repetition range, and all integrated into one program, then you are not maximizing your hypertrophy efforts. So with my BITCH program, all of this has been taken into consideration and been mapped out into what I would call a Magnus Opus training program, which will have you covered to make sure that you achieve your maximum hypertrophy gains. We will move on to factor number 2, which is choosing the correct exercises for a given rep range. For example, one example would be if you were prescribed to do a high repetition set of, say, 40 repetitions for a chest exercise. You would want to do this with a chest fly movement as opposed to a barbell chest press. If you were to do a barbell chest press for 40 times, you would be engaging your shoulders and your triceps, and there's a pretty good chance that one of those muscles would fatigue before your actual chest muscles did. So you would want to pick, in this case, an isolation exercise like a chest fly, so you can apply that stimuli of the 40 rep range to the chest muscles without another muscle group directly interfering with that ability. The flip side of that is if you were doing a low repetition set of, say, 5 reps, in that case, you wouldn't want to do the chest fly, and you would want to do something like a barbell chest press, because you, at this point, for a 5 rep range, you are looking for a maximum weight load, and you will never be able to put or apply as much weight and tension on those chest muscles with, say, even if you were doing 50-pound chest flies, as you could if you were doing a 250-pound barbell chest press, just as an example. So factor number 2 is, depending on the repetition range, my BITCH program specifically prescribes the correct exercise so you can get your maximum hypertrophy results. Factor 3, how much weight should be used. In BITCH training, you will not only be given the exercises, the number of sets, the repetitions to do, but you will also be prescribed an estimated amount of weight to be used. This is important for maximizing both your myofibrillar hypertrophy and your sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. It can be really, really easy to either go overboard on your heavy sets in a low rep range. So if I told you to do a set of 5 on the chest press, a lot of times people overestimate how much weight they can use with proper form and with a proper tempo to maximize the muscle fibers being used. And it works the other way as well. Sometimes in a middle rep range, say something for 12, people don't use enough weight, and they forever do dumbbell curls with the 10-pound curls when they can easily advance to maybe the 12s or the 15s in such a case. Even a 40 rep range can be very, very tricky. So I will give a full explanation of when prescribed, I should say, the specific exercise. You will also be given parameters to choosing the proper weight to make sure that you are not either going overboard with the weight and, of course, risking injury, or going too light with the weight and not getting enough tension on those muscles. So I try to take all of that into consideration when putting together the BITCH program. Factor number 4 is the training cycle and recovery. If you are on a weekly training cycle, then you are already behind the hypertrophy 8 ball. If you train legs every Sunday morning, or chest is on Friday and tricep day is on Wednesday, if you are doing this week in and week out, always training the same body parts on the same days, this is going to be very problematic for maximizing your efforts. So oftentimes people pair up a major muscle group with a minor muscle group. So let's say back and biceps are done on a particular day. The smaller muscle group, the biceps, are going to recover much more quickly than the larger muscle group, which in this case would be the back. So if you are doing those, say, every Wednesday together, at some point during the week, your arms are going to be recovered, and there is absolutely no reason why that you shouldn't be able to train them again. If you do that too soon, your back might not be recovered and you would be overtraining your back. If you are waiting for your back to recover in order to train biceps again, then you are undertraining your biceps. So what I do is lay out a macro cycle of 31 days in which the body parts are trained based on the volume and intensity of work that they were trained on the previous workout. So a particular bicep workout, your arms might be recovered in 2 days. And if it was a more intense, higher volume workout, it might take 3 days to recover. So these workouts are staggered over the month. You might have a high intensity leg day that takes 5 days for your legs to recover, or there might be a lower intensity day where it only takes 2, it could take 3, or it could take 4. So now every day you still have your rest days, but the training days are always maximized. So no one body part is over or under trained. This is not as complicated as it might sound because it's already figured out for you. You just need to follow the training schedule with the prescribed exercises, sets, repetitions, and tempos. That concept alone makes bitch training far, far superior than any other hypertrophy training program that I have that I'm aware of. There are these concepts out there, but they have never been integrated fully to both the natural athlete. Again, that's very, very important. And often they're never taken in stages to build a person up to the given volume that they need to train at. So that was taken into consideration when putting this macro cycle together. Factor number 5 are tempos. Part of the BITCH program is using a variety of tempos to train, because we're not just focused on one type of hypertrophy. We are going to have to use more than one tempo technique to maximize your hypertrophy efforts. 4 types of tempos are used. There's an explosive tempo, a rhythmic tempo, there's a slow, constant motion tempo, and a plyometric tempo. These will all elicit a different response from your muscle cells. You will have different muscle fiber reactions, and your hypertrophy gains in both a sarcoplasmic and myofibrillar capacity will respond to these different tempos. You are going to have to know, which I will explain, when to use these tempos, what tempos go with what exercises, and with what rep ranges. And lucky for you, this is all going to be explained in the upcoming BITCH training program ebook. And factor number 6 is the BITCH set. This is a new concept, never before used in any publication. This is my creation. This is a type of circuit that is going to integrate some of these, what I've explained today, factors into a multi-exercise circuit that is going to absolutely give your muscles, whatever the trained muscle is, the optimal opportunity for hypertrophy. This is the distinguishing factor which will absolutely distinguish the BITCH program from anything else on the market, because this is not in any other program out there. This is exclusive to the BITCH program. So those are just 6 factors that are explored in the overall BITCH program. With these BITCHtv podcasts, we are going to go over a lot of these concepts, and we are going to get out of the recording studio, and either myself or another natural athlete will be in the gym. We will show you how to perform these exercises, use these different tempos, show you the difference between an explosive tempo and a rhythmic tempo. We are going to show how to perform them in conjunction with different rep ranges and some of the actual forms and techniques of the exercises that are prescribed in the BITCH program. So this way, when the BITCH training manual is available, you will have this podcast to go back and reference to make sure that you are performing everything up to its optimal capacity. So who is the BITCH training program optimal for? This is an advanced weight training program. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So I've seen in other publications where they might recommend that a beginner is somebody that's been lifting weights for less than a year. Intermediate weightlifter is somebody from 1 to 3 years, and more than 3 years makes you an advanced lifter. I can't be that specific as far as a time frame for how long you've been training. If this program applies to you, what I will say is, because I know people that have been training for 2 years and are much more advanced than people who have been training for 10, 15, 20 years. I know people that have been training for 20 years, I would still consider them a beginner. And like I said, I know some people that have been training 1 or 2 years and are beyond intermediate and are more advanced. So we can't simplify it into a time frame. You do need to have a grasp and a concept of the forms, the techniques, and these tempos. You do need how to perform exercises such as squats, deadlifts, a proper powerlifting bench press, pull-ups, all very basic movements, but the performance of them are very important to get the most out of your integrated training. Again, that is where this podcast is going to come in handy, because you will be able to reference these things and take them, visually see them, and apply them into your gym, into your basement, wherever you are doing your training, and make sure that you are not only engaging them properly, but you can always use by email, which is going to be jeffreydtellis@gmail.com. You can contact me if there are some of these concepts that you think need further exploration. I have no problem with making it a podcast in and of itself if it seems like there is enough need for it. Again, who is this for? It's for the natural athlete, the natural performer. Not that this system wouldn't work for somebody that is using performance enhancers. It absolutely will work for them, and it will work for them in a capacity probably better than any other system that they have ever used. But I can't call it optimal because I do not have the knowledge or the experience of working with said pharmaceuticals. So There might be a different concept out there that would complement somebody training on performance enhancers. So I will not make that claim. I will claim, though, if you are the natural athlete, that this is optimal for your hypertrophy goals. So the best thing that you can do to get more information, if this is something that you're interested in, is to subscribe to the BITCHtv podcast and follow updates on the Bitch Training website, which is www.bitchtraining.guru. It is not a .com, it's a .guru. I figure I am going to be getting enough flack and being referred to as a guru, so I might as well embrace it now, and I made my website a .guru before I figured I should do it before I let somebody else do it to me. There is also going to be a audio podcast, which is Bitch Radio, which is going to be also on Podbean and on iTunes, and that is www.bitchradio.podbean.com, or you can just type in Bitch Radio on your iTunes and you'll be able to find it there. That you can subscribe, listen, and download for free. That'll be a much shorter podcast in which we explore just very simple concepts and quickly show how we can apply and integrate them into your daily training regimen, whether it's nutrition, some simple myth busting, and trying to clear the air on some of the bad information, the misinformation, and things of that sort, which a lot of the natural athlete comes across and realizes, hey, why isn't this working for me? And maybe Bitch Radio will be able to give you some clarification. So I hope you all find these concepts interesting enough to go subscribe to BitchtV. It's 99 cents a month. And stay in contact with me, and I can help better serve you as far as what information you find interesting or need a more thorough knowledge base on. In 2015, there will be a release of 3 ebooks. There will be the Bitch Training Manual. There is going to be another book called Laddering for Strength and Muscle. This is a starter's guide to getting strong and also creating muscle growth, hypertrophy. And there is going to be a third book, which is going to be templates for you to help create your own workouts for yourself. And we'll give you the outlines and the tools in order to create your own concepts based on your goal. So thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week on BitchtV.